which one was the favorite workshop? This time we did the relation to childhood.
Yeah.
The second one was the spirit releasement, and the third one was about the transforming into an object.
Mhm.
And that was very tricky because you do it and you have no idea what is the purpose of that. So it's a surprise. Which one you like it more?
I think all three workshops were really powerful. They were powerful because it's not just something that we can do here, but we can take this knowledge back with us and apply it on us in our everyday lives. Especially when now that we have the awareness and we spot certain patterns, it's okay to sit down and practice this. So that's the first great thing about it. My personal favorite was the last one, turning into an object and sort of um, seeing how I view myself, my own perspective on myself. And that's very empowering as well. Because often I feel like, at least in my case, in my world, I get so busy thinking about others and what's happening outside me to take that time off and see how I see myself from the inside is, wow, it's eye opening.
And it's very tricky because if I ask you, can you tell me how you are or define yourself?
Mm-hmm.
It will be completely different because you have a story of who you
Exactly.
are, but this is completely surprise.
Exactly. If you were to ask me describe yourself, I would give you an identity that I think others around me think of me.
Yeah, your mask.
My mask, right? But in this case, without even knowing, we get into the exercise and we're actually facing how we think we are or how we see ourselves. And at the end of the day, that's what matters because that's what's projected outside. Our own perception is projected outside.
With your weakness
and strength.
Your damaged parts.
Mm-hmm. Because I realized that that's what makes me, that's what makes everyone. At first, it was that having a problem is a bad thing, or maybe it's an issue with me, but only to realize everyone has problems. And this is something I need to work on all the time. It's not that I take one pill or I do one thing and all the problems go away. I feel like even when I work on some, I'm on a different level where different types of challenges come in. It's a ongoing process. So.
And what did you realize in this particular exercise? What was your insight?
For me, the exercise was very strong and effective simply because up until now that I've started working on myself, I've looked at different aspects of my life or context and tried to work on them. But my big realization was that when it comes to myself, accepting myself the way I am is beautiful. Like I'm unique in my own way, and that was strong because in the actual exercise, I saw myself as a wet used towel, which was a very funny thing to relate to. But I could connect myself to it, and I could. The most important part was I could see how I can improve myself.
But you were feeling consciously before, like a wet used towel.
Not consciously, but in this exercise, it was almost as if when I saw myself as a wet used towel, I could like connect the dots of my patterns of behavior, which probably led me to feel like a wet used towel. And when I connected the dots, and even after the exercise, when we had time and I could think about it, I could really clearly see how I've been behaving, putting others before me, not prioritizing my own time. To feel, and at the end of the day, feeling used and feeling drained, not feeling satisfied either. And left away, like used and thrown, and this was not just from strangers or people I work with, but from some of my close friends. And the idea is with making boundaries is not just to keep people away, but for me, it's to understand how to keep them close too.
Yeah, to learn how to live with people.
Exactly.
And be assertive.
Exactly.
You feel comfortable and they feel comfortable.
Right. And the realization was if I am happy with the people around me, I'm being true to them too. If I'm just being nice to them, but deep down I don't enjoy it, then I'm leading them on in the wrong way too.
I've got to say, last time it was the inner child on my last retreat, and I used this tool during the whole year before coming back each time I was sad, angry, anxious, I went to the little girl in me and reassured her, asked her what was going on. And I always felt better, and I really improved my life with that exercise. This time, I found the releasing entities, the spirit releasement, a super tool that I hadn't understood last year. I used it several times throughout the ceremonies, and I'm going to continue doing that. It's a really good tool. You believe it or not, it's a symbol or not, we don't care. It really works well if you empower yourself.
I want to add to the second workshop something, because in the workshop itself I realized my lower back pain.
The spirit releasement
Yes,
workshop.
the spirit releasement workshop. I realized that where my lower back comes from, like you really guided me to this moment. I've never could imagine. I thought it's because of sports or whatever, but I think, or I know that it's a piece of a soul what is not serving me and what's not my soul, so I released it. And for me it was metal and very heavy. And then to think about when the first time occurred, when we felt it. And that helped me so much. And I realized that it was one scene of with my ex-boyfriend actually.
You are in a light trance, that's why it's easier information comes, because if not, normally we are protected, we are too rational, we don't allow the information come.
Yeah, and
I saw this very clearly in my last ceremony. The 3 workshops were the inner child taught me how to. I've been working with inner child for a while, and I actually use inner child with my clients, but in general, inner child has allowed me to become
similar of our inner child or different?
A little different.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But working with the inner child has allowed me to be the parent that I needed, right? And my parents were wonderful, but I did need different things from them. And so I was able to give that to myself, especially in that state of consciousness. It's so different doing it in a meditative state than doing it with ayahuasca. And so that was really beautiful. And then the cosmic vacuum cleaner was my personal power, was the no, I'm actually not going to stand to do this anymore. No, I actually don't want to suffer anymore. And so I was able to pull out fragments of myself, or not fragments of myself, fragments that people maybe put on me, or fragments that maybe I put on other people, because I also saw that, I saw that I had fragments on my ex-husband that was, oh, I'm so afraid that he's not going to heal. And the thought of me thinking that about him was me putting myself, my fragment within him, and it was literally preventing him from not healing. And so not only was I able to vacuum fragments that were outside of myself, but fragments that I also realized that I put on other people, that it's not fair, it's not okay. And so I was able to vacuum clean it and then send it to the Cosmic Hospital for healing. And then the third one was just very beautiful and insightful of, how do I look at myself, and how do I see my past, present, and future, and how can I change that, it was really beautiful. And just all of those tools really helped me when I was in my journey. It was so beautiful. It was really special to have those tools.
What about ayahuasca? Only you, Alexia, drank ayahuasca before. The rest, it was the first time here. So it was what you expected?
No.
It's more, yeah.
More.
More.
All of you feel the same.
Yeah.
Did you imagine that the ceremonies were going to be so quiet and tranquil? No? Why? You were watching videos in the internet.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't do that. Because some other places, I saw a few videos and people are very loud and moving, and it's not very nice to see that.
Exactly. I think what I saw mostly was videos, documentaries, even to know what I'm getting myself into. And one thing I found common was it was very loud and a bit disturbing at times too. I was still excited even after seeing that, but I think the difference was, especially here under the guidance of yourself and Tio, is also to use what we go through, in the future, to make sense of it, to make it relatable. It's not just treated as a trip. The respect we give the process and the importance we gave the journey, I think that's what we take with us moving on. That's why it's so close to all of us, or most of us at least. So that was definitely helpful. And during my research, I also found in multiple places, even the subtle things like diet, the type of diet we have, and how big of a difference that makes, not only during the process of taking ayahuasca, but even after taking it in this 10 days, or spending time with everyone, how it changes our energy throughout the day, how it detoxes us of so many things, and how light we all felt, which was amazing. Things like even the accommodation. And we came from all parts of the world, different sizes. Me and Alexia, we were with Scott, a huge guy, but it was so comfortable. And the fact that we could stay together and it felt comfortable, it felt like home. And that is what, at least for me, allowed me to shed the layers, openly share. So yeah, all these subtle things put together definitely made the whole experience very memorable.
I think the fact that the ceremonies are so quiet here is because we set good boundaries from the very beginning. The guidelines are very clear, so people feel safe. So you have to be in your own place and go inside. It's not outside, it's inside, you see with the eyes closed.
Yeah, you set the permission to really, now it's time for me, and I have the right to lie here and do nothing, And it's wonderful.
And as you said, I think it can't go loud because we are not, as I said before, passive in front of the experience we're having. Like, we can see something that are huge, that are scary, that are sad, but as we are well guided at the beginning and between sessions, we know that we have to work on it, to ask for, it's not only looking at things going, as you told me, what's going on. It's like, okay, this is happening. Who are you? Where are you coming from? How can you teach me something? So you can't go loud because you're mastering your experience mostly all the time.
But even though if you see something very scary, you don't feel, I have to lose the control and run away.
In
you
contrary,
trust that you will be okay.
In contrary, you're always like you're teaching us really to use our power. And also, like, I had also one time I really was, oh my goodness, I'm so scared, and I don't know if I can go away from this 1 second. I don't know, like, maybe I have to stay forever here. But then I remember, no, now it's a chance to use my power, and I have to use my power. And then I used it, and it was really helpful, It's really nice.
And you, Liz, in certain moment you were afraid, and you told me, what if I don't come back?
Okay, yes. Okay, so there was a point, it was the day of the workshop where you taught us about the cosmic vacuum. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to come in here like a house cleaner and like clean the baseboards and the ceilings and like everything, right? Deep clean. But all of my feelings were like attaching to me like these like parasitic, I can't even describe it, but they were like coming up from below. And during this time was going like so slowly that you went around and you said 1 hour. And I was like, there is just no possible way that it's only been 1 hour because it has felt like 36. and it just got so overwhelming that I called you over and I said, Sylvia, I cannot do this anymore. I don't want to suffer and I don't know what to do. And I'm using my vacuum, but my vacuum doesn't feel strong enough. And what do I do? And you just said exactly what I needed to hear was you said, you just have to do it. And she said, this whole, the mind parasites needing you to feel everything and your vacuum not being strong enough, like those are all, and your coughing, because I was coughing during the ceremony, are all manifestations of control. And she said, you can just vacuum it up in 5 seconds and just relax and listen to the music. And that's all you have to do for the rest of it. And like in that moment, just relaxing and listening to the music sounded like bliss. And then you walked away and then I tried to do it on my own again. And then it was like, again, those like parasites started coming up, and I was like, ah. And so then I called you over again. The second pet talk just like did it for me. And yeah, I was that, but me being able to hold that personal power for myself,
that was the blockage.
That was a blockage. But
Yeah.
when you're down there, it is so incredibly hard for you to do that for yourself. It's like 500 times harder for you to stand up for yourself in the underworld than it is to stand up for yourself in this realm.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're able to do that there,
Yeah.
then when you're here,
Mhm.
everything else is just so much easier.
Yeah.
But it was that tool of
And
the
you
cognitive-
did it yourself.
and I did it myself. And then after that, you know, I spoke to my inner child and I met with her and I said, like, we can do hard things. And when you're scared, I'm here to take care of you, just like I just did. And she felt good, but she was still a little bit rattled, you know, as you can imagine.
And what happened with your tics?
It stopped.
No more.
It stopped no more. And so I still feel it a little bit because my body still wants to do it, but it's not my like energetic body or my mind. It's just like the physical body still sometimes wants to do it. But in my last ceremony, one of the big messages that I received was that this like clearing your throat or the tics all come from you just not deciding, from you staying in the in-between. And when you stay in the in-between, you want to control because you haven't just declared for yourself, you know? And I was able to declare in that final ceremony, like, this is who I am. And I am important, but so is everybody else. Everybody else is just as important as me because importance is a birthright. But I am accepting in this moment that I am important and this is who I am. And it was like, and then I thought about clearing my throat, and then I was like, clearing what? There's nothing even there. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
I did want to say that with the ceremonies, it being so peaceful, I was afraid that the purges were going to be violent because I didn't do any research, but the few people that would tell me about it all mentioned that, like, oh, isn't purging violent, and does it sneak up on you out of nowhere, or do you know that it's going to happen? And I thought that the purges were physical, and then it would kind of like happen to where you know, and then just like you to run to the bathroom. But what was actually happening that I didn't expect was I was purging emotionally. So it wasn't that my stomach started hurting and I was like, oh, I'm having a reaction. It was that there was a point where ayahuasca told me to do something, and I was like, no, I have to wait for Sylvia. And she was like, for permission. And then like permission started amplifying, and then it turned into like gears, and then the gears started to like churn, and then my stomach was like, and then I purged permission. And that was an example of purging the mental parasites, you know? So it's not like my body was having a reaction to that, but I was actually able to release that, and it was so nice.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, you born in the place of yoga and Ayurveda and Ayurvedic massage. So I imagine you did it in your country.
Yeah, and I did it as a child. Yet I was so disconnected from it because over years I sort of stopped practicing. I would get an Ayurvedic massage from time to time and do a bit of yoga, but it was a very Western form of yoga, Western influenced yoga. And to come back here and sort of, you know, start our days when we had the ceremonies with yoga and then getting a massage, sure, it was very relaxing and a great way to start, but for me, it was very effective because it was connecting me back to my roots, which was something I've avoided for the longest time. So whether it be, I don't know, even the clothes I was wearing and everything, I just put together a few clothes thinking these are spiritual clothes or whatever. But when they all came together, I realized I'm connecting back to my roots. And I was doing that, I don't know, 14 hours away from my home country, you know, so in Brazil. So that was very empowering. And it was relaxing at the same time. I think some of us were talking amongst ourselves, we were saying, even if we came just for a vacation, we didn't actually go through the ceremonies and do all the work on ourselves, even just to relax, this would be worth it. Disconnecting.
Especially some people are so rational. They are living in their heads and so disconnected with the body. So, well, you are a yoga teacher, you know these things.
And I discovered it's still on me, you know. So I'm not perfect, and absolutely I'm a student, and I also have to learn so many things. And this week, gave me a lot of chances to do so, and also that I can teach others to do so.
Perfect. So we always have a lot of healers here. So it's very interesting your opinions because you are very much into nature or healing. So it's interesting that we can grow together and learn together and be authentic. So all of you are going to Itacaré for a few days, planning to have lunch or go to the beaches.
Yeah.
So I hope you have a wonderful time in Itacaré. It was my pleasure to have you here. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.